Good day and welcome to another edition at Jaguar E Type, the original. Today we're talking about bolts, screws and nuts, and they do matter to me at least because I'm also a car assessor apart from being a restorer. The first thing a car assessor is looking at to evaluate the car is looking for accidents, and the best thing to find indications for that is to look at the screws and bolts if they have been removed, replaced or whatever. And that helps us, or at least me, to identify if a car has been restored correctly or not. It is small things, but in the sum it all builds up the value and the authenticity. So we start with in an order to explain the suppliers of the bolts, the different lengths, the codes in the car catalog, and the changes from the early to the later cars. So there were a few manufacturers or suppliers, as you could say, and most of them are known. Here I have an example which is a Bees, and try to focus that in, and it's not that easy. Try to zoom that in. So this is the Bees. It's 45 R rated 55. That's the tensile strength for an early one, and they changed the R to S, as far as I know. They changed that in about mid 62. So on early cars like flat floors or OBLs, you only have to find the R rated Bs, and you could also get the same bolts as you can see here, and the supplier is JKN, still R rated. And you also had Ruby Owen, you also had Newton and some others. To show you a later one, which is a similar, so this is a later, this is S rated. You see that here. So this is a JKN, same manufacturer, but it's still, instead of R rated, it says S. So that's the only thing you need to know about the tensile strengths, that it changed about in mid-late 62. Early cars, they only should have the R-rated, and later cars only should have S-rated. Manufacturers, as I said, were Ruby Owen, JKN, Bees, and a few others for particular bolts, like I will show you later. And they did change the writing a bit, but overall it is important just to remember the brand name and if R or S. Then we have here, there's another thing. These are door hinge screws and bolts. These are screws, and because you see the thread is going up to the top. These ones are the bolts. They have the shaft is just blank. So this would be a bolt. And these are screws. So these screws, you see these with this shape, these are for the doors, where the door is mounted to the hinge. Whereas these ones with the flat head, these are also for the hinges, but they were used for mounting the hinge to the body. And even though they all do look, these three all do look the same, we have three different manufacturers. So we have JKN on this side. This is JKN, same as that one, and then we have Newton, and these are the early ones. You will only find these on the early cars, and they should have them. Not that you find them; they should have them. These are the ones for the hinges, as I said. These are again R-rated, and they are correct for the early cars. You see, these are pointed. These are all pointed, and pointed screws, as well as the small one, they were plated. They were not black. Where you see all the other bolts, they were all black. All black means they were originally black, but on the 4.2, when they assembled the car, they mounted the engine frame, and then they painted the complete engine frame. So on the 4.2, the bolts on the engine frame, they were all painted in body color. But that is another thing. More important than the color is the length. and you can see here I've built up a line of different bolts, and you see the increment is very minor, and that is because Jaguar used an increment of 1/8 of an inch. Those dimensions you don't get anymore, at least I don't find them. What I find is they only have the increments by quarters, so that would mean every second taking out. And then you see that the difference between each bolt is lot more than Jaguar used to have. You see this, the steps are a lot bigger. And what I liked about Jaguar is that when they were using these bolts, and initially they were using these nuts on the left, so these are unrestored. They came off an early car, and this is a restored one, which I restored. And you recognize the bolts or the nuts on these rings. They also give you kind of strength. These long skirt nuts, nylon nuts, they were used up to what would I say, about 63, and then they were using this type. So they have the same height, as you can see. They have the same height, but the skirt, this one here and there, is different. So what we do is, or at least what I'm doing, is I'm restoring these nice long skirt nylon nuts, and I'm reusing them because they just look spot on. And the Jaguar assembled the cars by having the bolt looking out at the other side of the nut only by 2-3 threads, not more. So that was really neat. And now you can imagine why you need to have all the sizes by increment of 1/8, and that is also given in the books. They didn't want to have an excess of bolt thread on the outside of the nut. So how do you know the correct bolt length? Well, that is easy when you know. Let's say this is the Jaguar E Type spare parts catalog, which is also the assembly list for the whole car. So let's take an example. We have here the engine frame. Let's take this part, and we want to know what kind of bolt goes to which position. So what we do is, we see here left hand side member, and there it says we need a bolt 1FB 131 25R. So that is the length and that is the size. How do I know? There has been a code, and you can find that code on internet, and that is I made a copy, and you can find the code here. This is for UFB and B. So U is the bolt, F is for fine thread, and B is a bolt. S would be a set screw. So then you go down here, so we know it's a bolt, and we see the size is a 31. So it's a 131. So we know the size, the screws or bolt size, is 5/16. And now we still need the length, and we know, I go back here to the catalog, and there it says 25. So 25. We now need to find the length. The length is another table further down, and this goes up to 12. But then there is a second page, and then you find the length, and our length is 25. So here's 25, and the length of the bolts now we know is 3 1/8 of an inch. So that would be 3 1/8 of an inch. That would be this screw to be fitted on that place, and it's only one required. And yeah, you see these have been on the cars, and but that is then the exact length. And when you mount those, and you're using the right nylon nuts and not these reproduction, you see these are shorter in height. And so if you don't get the 8s, the 3" might be too short, the 3¼ might be too long, and then using this type of nylon nuts, you have a thread looking out maybe 1/2 inch, and that is a bit less, otherwise you would take the other one, and that just looks awkward. And here you see some other original just nuts. They have the marking on here, you see the rings on here. There's another one. These are all originals. These are new old stock, and this is the a new aftermarket. And don't tell me you don't see the difference. Yeah, there's a difference, and you know that now as well. Same with the spring washers. Jaguar used the square section, not the rectangular. So use these because they're a lot neater. They don't show under the. So if you have that here, you don't see the washer underneath the nuts, and that is what Jaguar was really good in. They really made their car looking so good in manufacturing. And yeah, I can give you another hint what I used. Here it is a nice tool I got from my friend in the States, good friend, one of the best restorers I know. It's Kerry Chad. Thank you for this little gift you gave to me when I was at your workshop, and this is so handy. And let's say you take your bolt, you can measure the length. This is 3 inch long, and you can also check, so it doesn't fit in here, but it fits in here, so it is 5/16, and this is so handy, and I can only recommend this. I get lost when I don't find this, and this is how I get all the bolts in the correct place, the correct length. And restoring these bolts is a pain, it's a punishment, but I like to see these bolts on the car. And as you can see, that is I have restored hundreds of them, and I just want to have them ready when I need them. But it is really a punishment. It is so boring, but it pays off when you see the end result on your car. And I hope I could help you with some questions. So you find the number, the code, you find in the spare parts book. You see the number and where it belongs to. Then you have this table which someone made, and I really appreciate that. Without that, I couldn't restore any cars really. So this tells you all about the length and thickness of the bolts. And keep in mind the long skirt nylon nuts. They changed to this shape in I think in 63, but you will never find these on a 4.2. And the early cars, they need to have the long skirt ones, and they need to have the markings on there. I've tried to find these all over the world. I would say impossible. So yep, hope you keep something in mind. These are just some aftermarkets I placed here as an example. That is what they, and if you put an original one next to it, you can't tell me you don't see the difference. So this is, put some light on there. So you know what the head has to look like, and there's no excuse for not using or restoring the original bolts and nuts. So okay, I hope you got some information you were looking for, and I will try to make some more videos about these small but important details. And if you have any questions, please contact me, and I'm happy to answer you. Subscribe please, and thumbs up so that I know I'm on the good way, and hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.